because I
Okay.
hate her. I hate her. What is up, everybody, tonight? Your favorite angry American, as always, with the three misfits. I mean, the three musky queers. I mean, my co-hosts. We got Bob Toombs with Mountain Readiness, the illustrious Sue LaRue of Tactical Rifleman and all things Sue LaRue, and then Emery Morgenstern of Prime Combat Tactics, and he moonlights with Tactical Rifleman. So, but our real guest tonight is Chantal Mullen of the Farm and Forge. And don't just put Farm and Forge in. It's got to be the Farm and Forge, or you go to the wrong website. I learned that. How you doing, Chantal?
I'm doing good. I'm happy to be here.
Well, thanks for being here. Because one of the things that we're always trying to encourage people to do is to make their situation more self-reliant. Nobody can be 100%, and that seems to be like what you guys are all about. Is growing your own food, processing your own food, raising your own livestock, and processing them, and that's awesome. We're backing out of that business myself at the moment because we travel too much, but I think everybody needs to have the ability and the real estate to do their own livestock and food production.
For sure. Or at least know somebody else who you can partner with to do those things.
Yep. That's like going to a boat. The best boat in the world is your buddy's boat. So the best farm in the world is your buddy's farm. So I agree with that entirely.
I'm gonna rely on Chantal as well. Like, I've seen her wrestle pigs and stuff, man. She's a beast. She's a beast. Even handling these big tillers. It's insane. It's insane. Like a professional.
So since we do have a pro on here, guys, about farming, gardening, and some livestock, if you have questions for tonight, the questions are going to be, there it is. Hashtag Farm and Forge. I don't have my read glasses on, so I was having to study that. But hashtag Farm and Forge. Put that in your question if you have direct questions about farm and garden or animal husbandry or animal processing, and we'll get to those later on. So, so you have quite a few educational accolades in this field. This is like a hobby for you, is it, Chantal?
Yeah, I mean, I'm really passionate about kind of the farming and everything related to it. And when you're trying to learn all those things for yourself, and you end up kind of spreading out into a few different areas, and you find that there's actually a lot of overlap. So yeah, always trying to learn something new.
Well, we're all perpetual students. I always like to say your degree is your tombstone. So we're all perpetual students. There's always time to learn. So are you going to make it out to Fallout? Are you guys going to be out there?
Yeah, we're going to be out there. My husband's going to be teaching some coal forging. So that's really exciting. He'll be, we're putting him, he's doing, to be fair, he's doing a lot more actual education and working, hardworking this event. And I'll be kind of mingling and manning our vendor tent. So.
Chantal, everyone needs your mind. We need your mind, though, is what it is, Chantal. Because usually you're teaching classes, and those are great. Classes are great, but at the same time, this frees you up to roam around, and people can ask you questions about what you do. And that's hard to do when you're processing out and dressing out a hog. So that takes up and consumes. I know we run you ragged in May. You literally had no sleep, no downtime.
I was like looking at the schedule, and I was like, wait, do I have a break? No, I'm teaching another class.
Right. So this time we're doing that to Christopher.
That's right. But he needs to pull his own weight.
Hey, Ma's in the house. I got to say hi to Ma. So
what kind of, before we get into the rest of your stuff, which is fascinating, but for me personally, as a ex-knife maker, what kind of forging and blacksmithing does your husband do?
Well, he does coal forging, and he does He doesn't do a whole bunch of knife making, I'll be honest. It's not his favorite thing. He does more ornamental. He has done a lot of functional pieces like drawer pulls, lighting fixtures. And then like his outdoor camping gear is super sweet. He
Very
has a lot
cool.
of variation in that.
He does actual blacksmithing.
Without offending anybody, yes.
Yeah.
What?
I'm just saying.
I'm not mentioning any names. I'm just saying. I like it.
Nice.
The safest possible answer to that question.
Right.
Now, Christopher does some phenomenal stuff, and coal forging itself, and Emery can attest to this if he's ever done. I've played with it a little bit. Man, that is a whole nother world when it comes down to forging. That is the primitive skill that you leave that metal in there 10 seconds too long, all of a sudden the stuff just falls into pieces. I mean, it's insane how much skill just keeping your metal temperature correct when you cold forge. So I'm excited. He didn't have his cold forge with him last time, but this time we're going to give him a couple breaks, and for 3 straight days, we're just going to work him to death. It's going to be awesome. Right, Christopher? I know you're watching.
He is watching, so now he knows.
So now he knows. He just found out. He was just
No.
informed.
He agreed to this in advance. He just didn't know how hard he was going to be working. Now he knows.
Now he knows.
Well, we're looking forward to it. It's going to be a great time. I was looking at your Facebook page earlier, and it looks like when you guys process the livestock and stuff in your place, are you pre-packaging that for folks, almost like dinners? And is there a service you're selling them out? People at farmers markets, or they come to you, or is that just you putting that stuff away for yourselves?
So it's a little bit of everything. Right now, there's several exemptions. Just don't want anyone to wag their fingers at me for, regulations. But we have poultry exemption right now, and a meat handler's license. So we do our own poultry that we sell at a couple of local farmers markets. We will have some at the event. We have a couple of different kind of meal offerings, but then we have like our regular offerings of different cuts. And then we do right now take our hogs to a USDA certified processing facility. And then we get that back. If we sell a whole or a half, then that's the customer's specifications, like what they would like it cut as. But then when we go to farmers markets, we have certain cuts and specs that we would have that animal processed as, and then we can sell that at the farmers market.
That's cool. Because, there's the whole crush of trying to shut down like the small scale gardeners in favor of industrial farming, looking at what's happening up in like the Netherlands, where they're closing down hundreds of farms, and telling those farmers, they cannot farm anywhere in the EU at all ever again.
That's I've seen some of that stuff, and I don't really know specifically what the rules and regs are over there, and I don't know how that all came to be, but in a general sense, that's kind of scary because you shut down the ability to farm, and how do you feed your people?
Yeah, exactly. Like even in China, it's illegal for Chinese citizens to own a private garden. You cannot even garden on your own property in China.
Really?
Yes, that's a fact. It's like there's a mass movement in place to curtail food production globally, which is a little concerning. So you said you guys, had some exemptions and they're allowing you to do stuff. I was very surprised. So do you do anything with milk, like whole milk or anything like that?
No, we don't have any cows at this point. It's something that we're, eventually hoping to branch into. We really like the Randall line back for a dual purpose cow. Actually they have triple purpose. You can actually yoke them as well and teach them to pull. So they'll do meat, they'll do milk, and they'll pull. And then, for raw milk locally, we have some friends of ours that we go to.
That's nice. To have the options, and when you said nobody judgment regulations a minute ago, I was like, we're not going to judge it here. We all have a little outlaw in all of us. So Don't worry about it. The gray area is the best area to operate in.
Yeah, you have to know the laws so that you can move around them adequately.
Yeah,
Chantal,
for sure.
I got a couple of questions. So I've lived on a couple of ranches and I've raised, various things. I have had some hogs of a couple of varieties. I love raising pigs, right? Pigs are they're such a wonderful animal.
They're annoying.
But so for somebody getting into it, right? I think one of the biggest problems with people getting into raising an animal they're not used to yet and are not very familiar with, there are some infrastructure kind of concern. Like, how do you set up an infrastructure specifically for hogs? Because every animal's got their little tricks, right? Their little things that they like or can get out of, right? And I know that pigs can be pretty simple in certain aspects, but they can be kind of harder to control because they're big.
Yeah. Well, so it depends. If you're just starting out in a general sense, there's going to be kind of three options. There's going to be a physical fence, like fence post and metal wire, that you would stretch over the fence line. There is flexible netting, kind of like the chicken netting that a lot of people use. And then there's also 2-strand. And I've used 2-strand and I've used the netting, but I don't use the formal fencing just because it's the most expensive option. And so that's often a barrier to get like a physical fence like that. So, but with any fence, you have to train the animal to the fence because in all reality, it's really up here for the animal. That animal can go right through that fence. We have all our pigs on 2-strand, even our like 800-pound boar, and he respects that fence because we've trained him to.
Now, is that hot wire on that 2-wire? Or is it just barbed wire?
No,
hot wire?
It's hot wire. Yeah, you need to have, because they're smart and they're very smart. They will retest that fence. And if that fence is not hot, they'll be like, it might just be worth it to try to go on the other side. And you don't want that. You want it to just hit them and then they learn to back up instead of run forward. And there is some fence training with that too.
So, but essentially infrastructure wise, as far as fencing and that kind of stuff for hogs, really, it's a lot simpler than say goats, right? Because goats.
Yes. Goats. There's a reason I don't have goats anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, pigs, I think as long as they're trained, they're much easier than goats. I would say with few exceptions, if a pig has not been properly trained to a fence, you might get an escapee once in a while, but you shake that feed bucket and they're generally happy to follow you back. But fence training in and of itself, like piglets, if you get piglets, then assume that you're going to need to fence train them. And what we have for that is a dog fence setup. And so we set up the actual physical barrier, and then we set up the 2-strand right inside so that they learn to go backwards when they get hit instead of forwards and running through the fence. That's really what you want. And then 2 weeks of that, in a general sense, 2 weeks. And then you'll see them inside that dog fence. They're respecting it. You can see they're not kind of going to come through. There's like an imaginary line all the way around that fence. They're backing up from it. They just won't test it at that point.
Yeah, I was in the pig raising business for a while. We had 5 going at one time, and they kept breaking out of the pen. And so I spent like one whole day, 8 hours out there, new hog panels. I dug it into the ground, even like 6 inches. I'm like, they're not getting out of here. The next morning I walked out and they were all standing in front of my truck. And so we had a mass shooting right then, and I butchered all 5 of them that day. I was done with the pig business.
Chris, I believe for YouTube, that's supposed to be called a conversation.
Yeah, no, we had one. I had a conversation with them.
Point blank conversation.
Exactly. It was a point blank conversation. And I butchered them all by myself that day. I was just like, well, Mel was with me, and she's like, well, I guess we're not leaving. She walked back in the house, and I'm like, no, we're not. So,
But that's a good
That's
point,
it.
though. That's a good
Oh.
point, though. It is possible to have, one that just decides for whatever reason that even though you've trained them, they're still going to escape. And the thing
That's
is,
one of those Braveheart pigs. I
Well,
think he threw his
better
black and white
tell
paint
them.
on and rose up against the system. He said, "No,
Yeah, but
you're
you
not going
gotta
to corral me in."
just like the government, you got to squash them before they teach the others.
Oh,
I was going to say he got the same treatment
no,
because
Chantal.
all those pigs were drawn and quartered, so every one of them got quartered. So same thing happened
Yeah.
to Braveheart.
Man. Freedom.
Yep.
Lovely.
So what type of pig again? I think you mentioned it, but what type of pigs are you raising?
So we originally started with American guinea hogs, and then we moved over into some mule foot crosses with some American guinea hogs. And let me back up and say this: in a two-tiered pig system, there are meat hogs and lard hogs, and a lot of homesteaders start with lard hogs because they're smaller. They're a good hog to learn on. They're not as intimidating for you to actually work with. But once we kind of went through that phase of getting the handling down, the husbandry down, and feeding and all of those things, we really wanted to move more into a meat hog. So we have red wattles. They are an endangered species or threatened per the Livestock Conservancy. They're a red color, obviously, but they have two little wattles that come off from their neck. And that is very specific to this breed. They're very smart. They're very nice pigs. They're great in the forest. They're foragers. All of the hogs that we've had they farrow out on their own, unassisted, in the forest. We haven't had to pull any piglets or have any problems with the moms. The moms have been great maternal instincts. And that's really a heritage breed. That's what you're looking for, is a pig that you're not going to have to baby.
Yeah, on your Facebook page, I saw a lot of pictures of some of those big sows out in what looked like the woods with
Yeah.
their piglets. And so, do you have a large area like that that's fenced in, that's wooded, or you're not keeping them on pasture and barns, that kind of thing, obviously? But
No,
how much area do they have?
Yeah, so I don't actually know. Probably total acreage for all of our pigs right now. They're rotating, I would guess, like 5 or 6 acres. We have several areas. We have a feeder area, which is our pigs that we grow out to sell, to process. We have our what I like to call the maternity ward, and so those are our moms, our big brooders. And then we have the bachelor pad, which is where we have our boar. And so they're all separate so that nobody's bothering anybody else, basically. But that big forested area it's pretty large for those sows, because there's like 6 or 7 sows in there plus their babies, and
So
you really don't want to have
how
to
many
move
acres? How many acres per hogs? I mean, what's the ratio there for that particular breed that you're raising?
So that's everybody wants to ask that question, and it's a really it can be easy, but it can also be very complicated. There's a few variables, the breed, how much they actually work the soil, because pigs, that is part of how they were created. They were created to work the soil. They're natural tillers, which they're great at. And a larger pig is going to need a little bit more room in a general sense. But on the other hand, it depends on how you're feeding them and how the weather is as to when you need to rotate them. So in a general sense, I try to rotate my pigs once a week, with the exception being maternity ward because they've got all those piglets. You're not moving them. They're not going to let you. So you just kind of give them a very, very huge area that would be abnormal for the rest. The feeders get moved once a week. The boar kind of stays in his area, and we will swap out his friends for him. And it's, if there's a lot of forage in that area, in that rotation, as we move through the woods, the forage changes. So in one area, it might have a lot of brush. The pigs will eat all of that. Or like right now, we have a lot of hardwood trees that are dropping the nuts. And so I can hold them in that area a little bit longer because the forage is there for them. They're not going to be destroying the soil as much. So
do you feed them as
kind
well?
of a balance. We do. Yeah. We have grain that we feed them. We work with some local grocery stores to get lots of pineapples and
Pig barrels.
melons
Pig
and
barrels. Yep,
strawberries and
Yep.
apples. And then we're also going to be getting up our black soldier fly production again. And we'll be swapping out the black soldier fly for the grain, so that we'll be completely off of grain.
That's awesome.
That's what I was wondering, because in the preparedness lifestyle, it always comes down to food production, and being able to produce food with zero inputs or minimal inputs is obviously the ideal situation, but very hard to pull off. So I was wondering too what you're feeding them, and do you think you can produce enough black soldier fly larvae to feed your pigs? That's gonna be
we've got we do a lot of farming ourselves, vegetables and plant matter and mushrooms and microgreens and all these things.
I saw those oyster mushrooms. They look fantastic.
Yeah. Those are a favorite. They go quick.
Yes.
But in a general sense, it really comes down to this fly and how this fly cycles through things. You can feed it anything. You can feed it plant material. You can feed it meat. You can feed it, I want to say the polite way, to manures. You can actually feed it manures. So not that you necessarily want to feed that. You can, but it is an option. So, there are systems that's how that works. But they do process it and cycle through whatever you feed them. And it, I would liken it to like a fish meal. That's what it's comparable to. So it's a 1-for-1 equal swap out. So it's native here. It's probably already in your compost if you have a compost bin. You probably just haven't been able to identify it, or you haven't looked at it yet. So it's something most likely you already have access to. It's easy to feed, free, and you can feed that as the sole protein source. And in many ways, it's much healthier than any grain or any other protein source. And there's been a lot of documentation on getting better weight gain and higher quality meat when using the black soldier fly. So,
and you're not dependent upon buying grain.
Well, because that's
number one.
I
mean, that's with survival and self-reliance, and exactly. Or maybe we've had I believe one of the major outlet stores, I heard this year, was their feed was causing issues with chicken. They weren't producing eggs. I won't name them just for the I won't name them. I'll leave it what it is. But that run of the mill feed that's full of garbage was causing those issues. The black soldier flies, you solve that problem, and once again, you're not reliant on the system to raise your livestock.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty sweet part of creation, really, when you think about it. It's like already here. It already does what you need it to do. It's much healthier for the animals, and it's cheaper.
The chickens are going to dig it too.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so the chickens are going to be a huge fan of that as well. So that's a feed that they'll both go after. I mean, the chickens
Oh yeah,
love
they
them.
call that chicken crack, is what they call
Yeah,
it.
it's chicken crack, exactly. You know, I have a bucket that hangs from a tripod over in our barn for the chickens. And if I kill rats or if there's a road-killed squirrel out in the street in front of the house, I throw it in that bucket for the same thing. There's holes drilled on the bottom of it, and the maggots
Yeah.
fall through, and the chickens just stand there and look up, waiting. They're just waiting for dinner to come out of the bottom of that bucket. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
essentially
Free
the same thing.
food.
That
Yeah.
5-gallon bucket setup is what I recommend everybody start with,
Yeah.
just to kind of get a feel for it. And, if you're wanting to go big and you're wanting to set up an actual like bin type system and all that, and, get yourself a little shed, you can time it right. And you can be completely self-sufficient with that.
So the first time I heard about this soldier fly deal was in Chris's book. And so you literally, you can just throw a chunk of meat in there, let it rot, and they show up. It's that simple.
So in a general sense, if you're just trying to just kind of let it do its thing, yes, what'll happen is you'll get like regular flies first.
Yep.
But again, another neat thing about how these flies are created is that they produce a hormone, and once they get in there, that hormone suppresses any other insect. Maggot. So they basically just outcompete because they eat so fast, and they suppress other maggots, and so the larvae just take over. I mean, it's
so is
impressive.
there a way right off the bat to ensure that that's the kind of fly you get, or do you just let it run its course?
Yeah, so you can kind of hedge your bets like that. You can go and collect, like you can go out of your compost and you can go and collect the larva, and you can basically build a little netted mating chamber. You can allow the larva to go through their life cycle. They'll become adults and they'll mate, and you can use a little sign, like the corrugated ones, and you can just cut little strips, and the flies actually really like that space, I guess. So they'll lay their eggs in there, and then you have little egg packs. You can take those little egg packs, and then you can basically inoculate your feed source for them, and then it's all timing after that. So they'll take right over.
What do you call a rancher that breeds flies? That's a whole new thing. I never realized it's you could actually say, I want the black soldier fly and I'm gonna grow them like this. I didn't realize there's even an established method of doing that. That's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to do some research.
We were just talking about this last weekend, actually, about the soldier fly production that you've got going on. And I lied. So now we need you to show people how to make black soldier fly breeding grounds at Fallout. So it's not just Christopher going to be working the entire time. Now we need you to do it as well.
I don't know. I'll see if I can schedule you in.
Oh, let's look at the time.
Have your people call my people.
That's right. It'll just be me, though.
It'll just be me, though.
All right. So next question. I have tons here for you.
Go for it, man.
You're talking about having meat hogs, essentially, as opposed to lard hogs.
Mm-hmm.
Every pig I've ever raised or come across, and gone through the process of, at least from towards the end of their life on, hogs are known for having a ton of fat, which is a whole other series of questions I want to ask you about what you do with it.
Yeah.
But how much fat how much less fat or whatever are you getting on meat hogs versus lard hogs?
Well, again, a lot of that's going to depend on the breed. So every pig is going to have a layer of fat, the back fat that's under the skin. But lard pigs are going to have like 2, 3, 4 inches, depending on how well they're fed. So, it's one of those things that you can overfeed a meat hog, and it can be overly fatty, especially if you fed it that way since it was a piglet. And it's basically, you just don't end up with a lot of meat cuts because the fat just took over.
With yours basically kind of free range in a wooded area. That means those pigs are active. They're putting a lot of work out there rooting around. So, I mean, you know, when you raise hogs in like the factory farm kind of setting where they're on cement pads, concrete pads, you know, surrounded by fence, they don't get to do none of that stuff. So your method gives you probably a naturally slightly leaner hog than those raised, you know, in confinement. So.
Yeah, they still have fat. Like your pork chops and whatnot are still going to look nice with that fat cap on them, but it's not going to have like 3-4 inches like those American guinea hogs that we processed. There was so much, I mean, there's still meat, but there was just so much fat that was on there, and it was beautiful. I mean, it was like pure white, beautiful fat, but you know, that's because of that breed.
So what are some of your uses that you, I mean, I'm assuming you render it because I'm sure you still get a metric ton of fat.
Yeah. We try to use all the animal that we can. And you know, whatever we can't use, black soldier flies can kind of take over from there. But the fat we render down. And there's typically 2 types of fat on hogs. You're going to have the back fat, which is the regular lard. You know, you can make chicharrones and, you know, pork rinds and whatever else, right? All the yummy stuff. And then there's the leaf lard, which is on the inside cavity of the animal that's around the kidneys. And the 2 different types of fat have different uses. So the interior fat has no flavor, no odor, and it's typically a lot whiter or lighter in color than the exterior fat. It has a porky kind of flavor to it. So interior is like prized possession lard for all things baking and pastry. Like it makes a pie crust. It will make your scones just like out of this world. And the exterior fat I render down, and we use that for cooking. So that's what I have by my stove over here. We render it down in pint-sized jars, and then I take out, you know, whatever I need from that jar, and we do cast iron. So that's what I'm oiling my pans up with, greasing my pans.
That's the best thing in the world to season them with. And well, we got just a moment, guys. We're going to do a quick little promo here for Mountain Readiness. You guys know it's coming up later this month. I wanted to say next month, but it's coming up soon. So a little break here for a Mountain Readiness promo, and we'll be right back.
Hey, folks, this is T, and this is Mountain Readiness.
It doesn't matter what the event is that makes this thing go pop. It's going to be water, shelter, fire, food security. That's it. That's what you need in a nutshell.
There it is. T, you still got tickets for sale, right? Still got tickets to get people in there?
Yes, we still got, man, we've got so much stuff going on. We've got tickets for sale. There's still camping available. We've got posters. We've got koozies. We've got T-shirts. We've got Chantal. She will be offering farm fresh eggs. Take us through that, Chantal. What are you going to have? I know we had some chicken sauce that we cooked up. Amber cooked up yesterday. That was phenomenal.
Thank you. Yeah, so we have a couple of meal cooks. They're pre-assembled and ready to cook for your campsites. So we've got a breakfast special with eggs.
Oh, that's cool. People just go get it, make it right
Yeah.
there. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah, we have a half a spatchcock chicken and root roundup. You can get that seasoned or plain. And then we also have a pastured chicken soup. And so that comes with our bone broth and chicken broth that we actually made from our birds as well.
Nice. I want to take a quick minute to remind everybody the actual ebook pre-order is now up for Exploring Home. So the audiobook pre-order is up. now the ebook pre-order is up. So you guys can get the order in those. The print ebook or the print book pre-order will be up soon. We're just fixing a couple little glitches there. But jump in line. You can get them ordered. They're ready to go. And don't forget, after this show, guys, join us for On the Rocks. So, Chantal, you going to hang out with us for a little bit longer?
Yeah, absolutely.
That could get a little squirrely over there, but we'll see how it goes.
It's not for the faint of heart.
Well, last week's guest was Jack Stenica, and she's so awesome. She was so much fun on the entire show, and you're doing awesome too. We're so glad to have you here, because people that do this stuff is the ones we want to talk to, not people that theorize or watch YouTube videos about it. You're actually out living this life, which makes a big difference. So
yeah, we're all dummies over on this. I mean, I am. There's a couple things in my life that really kicked me in the knee. And first I thought I knew something about fitness, and then I realized I was just young. That was number one. So when I got older, I was like, nah, I didn't know anything. I actually didn't know zilch. And then I thought I was a good farmer, and then I realized it was Ohio, Indiana dirt. And when we got here to North Carolina with this acidic red clay, I realized that I suck when it comes to gardening compared to what I thought my capabilities were. So it's a breath of fresh air when we have guests like Chantal on, like yourself, who live this and have put up with the struggles and the hardships and all the hard work and the mistakes that are made, all those learning the parts of learning. Mistakes are huge. And on top of that, you've got, man, your whole, you've got a master's degree. Is that what I saw? Master's degree. What is that in? Now, I mean, we've got to talk about it. We got a master's degree. She does marketing. I mean, you're all over the place in the world. So
yeah.
Come on. Chantal.
Yeah. So getting a master's degree is not something that I really had ever envisioned myself doing, but it sort of just happened on my path. And it's in sustainable food systems, which it was from Green Mountain College in Poultney, Vermont. And I went on a 3-week sustainability tour of Vermont, and it totally just changed my view on so many things. I wish more people had opportunity to do something like that. And it kind of just shifted all of my agriculture, farming, plant and soil science into really thinking about systems and cycles and how are things connected, instead of looking at kind of like you're saying, like, why can't I grow this plant, and just kind of narrowing in instead of really looking at the whole full picture in a holistic way.
So did you start out farming the normal way? I'll call it the normal way.
I did.
And then you
I'm ashamed to say it.
So you start out with
I'm ashamed to say
rows. I mean, we've got to know the backstory. That's why we're here.
Yeah. I know. Okay. So, originally, ironically enough, I was supposed to go to the Art Institutes in Boston for graphic design. I have a certificate in that. And God just totally slammed that door shut. And he was like, no, I want you to go over here. And when I got down to like how much it was going to cost for college, I was like, if I'm gonna have to pay for this myself and work like 3 jobs to like make this happen, I want it to be something I really enjoy. And so I really just had really great memories growing up of growing a garden, and just kind of the amazement of seeing this planting this dead thing in the ground and it just coming out and being able to grow something that we could eat from that. And so I actually started at Forsyth Tech. Technical community college, plant and soil science, but it was very much traditional. So I learned I had a pesticide applicator's license. Don't hate me.
Oh no.
I know. I learned greenhouse horticulture and how to apply chemicals and IPM and soil testing and all of those things that you know, it's a different way of looking at things for sure. And I like to tell people there's a dichotomy there. You know, you either look at the soil as a container or you look at the soil as an environment, and that really decides which lane you're going to run down.
Everybody needs to be looking at it as an environment, because that's what it is. So
yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Yeah.
And
tell us.
So, well, we had this 2+2 program with A&T, NC A&T in Greensboro, and that's where I got the Ag Education and Professional Services degree. So I went on that sustainability tour after that, and that's kind of when I made a clean break, and I was like, whoa, I need to be over here.
Right. That's awesome that you started out, you know, and everybody sees where you're at now. And, you know, and Amber and I both the same. I mean, you're amazing. The stuff that you do, you're just a vast wealth of knowledge. But knowing that you came from the same area, you know, it's nice to see. It's nice to see and hear. Now, you also have the IDS gardening, and that's also one of your businesses, correct?
Yeah, well, I've kind of shifting gears a little bit on that, because I have found my new passion being the meat processing, because it's
processing. The key word here, folks, is processing.
Yeah, it's processing. It's, I think, a little bit more interesting for me, and it's a little bit more, I think, of a business model. They're different business models, and so they're just geared a little bit differently. The IDS gardeners or gardening is basically doing consults. I can come over to your house and I can help you, whether that's a formal garden, container gardening, or edible landscape. We do a lot of edible landscape because people aren't yet committed to tearing up their lawn or what have you, their space. But most people have a landscape that's already around their house that could be utilized in a more beneficial way for them.
So you offer a bunch of services. Kind of rattle off that list of the things that you guys. I mean, because you're processing animals, you're doing some prepackaged stuff, you've got consulting. I mean, like, what all is it that encompasses what you guys are doing? And then tell them exactly how they can find you and reach out if they need help. So let's make sure we get that in here. I want to make that's important. So.
Yeah, gosh. Yeah, I do a lot of things. That's probably my ADHD coming out. I love learning things. I love being able to go out and do different things every day. That's what keeps it interesting, and I really enjoy all of them. So yeah, we do farm consults. I've done land management for people, land planning, like holistic kind of farming applications. We do the gardening consults. We've started doing some animal and livestock consults, which has been really fun. We do, well, my husband, you know, he has all the blacksmithing goodies, and he wants to start offering lessons, which I'm encouraging him to do. I think that would be really great. We do classes. So we do a whole hog, farm to table butchering and processing class, which I think we're going to try to do one in the end of January. Cool. Let's see. I generally try to offer classes on things that as we go along in our farming, like castration is a big one that a lot of people are unfamiliar with. So
I'm familiar with it. So is Emery. Emery's familiar too.
Go ahead, Sue. Yeah. It's your chance to jump in.
It's a nice little segue for you.
I'm not going to touch that one. Yeah.
I figured you were going to kick him while he was down. I mean, that's why I was here it goes.
Well, I got to give you credit, Chantal. If you're going out and helping cut hogs, that's not something I could stand to do. Just the sheer screaming involved with trying to cut pigs, I just can't take it. It drives me insane.
We used to do it every year when I was a kid. The FFA class would go out there and everything, and then I think it was my sophomore year. We got 4 females in the class, four girls in the class, and they were all cheerleaders, but they actually enjoyed it, and the rest of us were like scared to death of those cheerleaders.
Don't
for the rest of high school.
You don't say. Right?
Yeah,
there.
I've worked with some women like banded calves before, and they're way too into it. Like they're
Yeah, they
they're-
enjoy that.
yeah,
Well,
they always
I
just
mean-
twisted.
they always wanted us just wrestling the calf to the ground and holding it down, and they're back there with that banding tool, you know.
All right, so Chantal, here's your new business idea. You ready? When it comes that time of year to do that, you offer a paid service of a first date castration of pigs, right? And then these couples show up on their first date, and then you let the female do the work, and you let the male go, that bitch is crazy.
Yeah, he gets to hold the pig down because they don't
Yeah, he's gotta-
cooperate.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you got to
you
hold
gotta
the
hold
pig
the
down.
pig.
Yeah.
Yeah, so typically I do have my husband or another volunteer for the day. We do the method where we put them backwards and sit on the pigs and hold the legs, and then
Yeah.
I'm the one that usually does the actual castration.
So, and you guys, I saw too, you're using volunteers and interns. Do you run like paid classes at your farm where people come in and actually pay you to learn these things and participate? Because do you know who Jack Spirko is? You ever listen to the Survival Podcast? Jack's a brilliant guy. He's big time in permaculture, which is why I was thinking you might have heard his name. But his fans and stuff, they pay him to come to his house and plant his fruit orchards and dig his hugel mounds and do all this stuff. And I'm like, that's brilliant, you know?
Yeah. So there's a few things that that kind of end up being that way. Chicken processing is one of them. We do offer chicken processing classes. And I've been dabbling with the idea of doing a rooster class, because a lot of times, we have new people that they're buying straight run chicks from wherever, and they end up with 40-50% roosters, and they're like, what do I do with these? And so
freezer camp.
A rooster
they go to freezer
day,
camp. That's where they go.
where we could camp. We could teach them how to process those and make them into, soup birds or whatever.
Shoot, yeah. Absolutely. Now we had the folks watching star up some questions for you, and I want to get to some of these before we round out the clock. And some of them are serious, and some of them are, it's YouTube. But Christy, she wants to know who's grilling up Chantal's birds that fall out. She wants to know if you're going to be cooking.
Oh well, I don't know. Maybe
we just had that conversation today as well.
Yeah, maybe Christopher, we could put him on his porch.
No, we need to hook Chantal and Shane up, and them two need to get to collaborating on some dishes that could be cooked from the Farm and Forage farm at Mountain Readiness via the cook.
Well, Amber's a great cook, but if I cook stuff, I'll burn toast. I can't make toast. I can't make eggs. I can't make anything. So, this awesome food that Chantal is going to be offering everybody at the Fallout, I would have to rely on Shane. I'd be like, hey man, I got this raw bird here. Need you to hook me up, because I can do nothing with that.
So you and Russ are supposed to be cooking briskets. So I guess that means Russ is cooking briskets.
Yes. Yes. Actually, I talked Shane into it. I'm taking the smoker to Fallout, and
that's your contribution. Awesome.
Yeah. I'm gonna take my smoker there, and Shane was like, well, "What can I do to help you, bro?" I was like, "You could do all of it," and he was like, "Okay."
That's
so
home run.
There's another business idea. We have like a 4-tier smoker that we could just like.
Show up with it. That's right. Barbecue.
There you go.
You will have customers, Chantal. You will have customers.
Oh yeah.
This was for Sue. Sue, James Carroll wants to know: does Andy really eat pork?
Oh yeah, he eats pork. That man will. I'm telling you, he will run me over for a BLT. That guy loves bacon. Yeah.
Oh my God. And back to bacon.
I've told our entire audience he's the worst Jew I've ever known. He's always broke. And he's always eating all the pork.
He's saying this, but Sue is 100% correct.
He is 100% correct. So Christy here says finch training. That's something I never thought of. I think people with absolutely no experience, like me, think you can just get some and pen them would make a funny story in a post-apocalyptic book. Yeah, the idea, because I've helped a very good friend of mine. We had to fence train some goats, and they were stubborn's not the word. It took extreme measures of training these goats on a hot wire, like extreme, to get them to understand to get the hell away from that wire.
Violence. Sounds like violence to me.
Yeah, but
Just
goats are assholes, right?
Prolonged contact. They needed prolonged and contact on that hot wire for them to really understand it. But yeah, most people don't realize
I've been talked out of getting piglets. I was going to get some piglets, next month.
Bro,
but
let me tell you what.
I don't know. I was going to ask. I'm thinking hog hunt. When they escape, we'll just go hunting. They'll all go.
Hey, I'm in. When you have a jailbreak, call me. I'll come in and help. Like the 5 that I had that day, when they all got out, I was staying there in shock. I really thought that there was no way that they could possibly get out of there. And I pulled a pistol and shot 3 of them before I realized what I was doing. And I was like, that's a lot of dead hogs on the ground. Holstered my gun, started processing pigs. So I processed those 3, found another one, shot it, brought it over there, processed it out real quick. And the last one was a little sow. She was only about like that big. And as I'm walking towards her, she just laid down. And I'm like, if you think I care, like looked up at me and everything. I was like, nope. Pow. All you had to do is stay in that fence.
No mercy.
None.
Brutal.
0.
Brutal.
Sent every one of them to freezer camp. They had a great time. They were delicious. So
part of the thing, though, that people need to understand is, and it seems very basic, but I know that some people don't get it, is they have to be happy in there too, right? It's not just a forced existence inside of a wire. If they have what they want and they have enough room to play around and, not be miserable, then you're taking away a lot of their reason for wanting to be on the other side of the fence or curiosity.
Well, like Chantal said earlier,
absolutely.
they're extremely intelligent too. So you've got to engage that part of their head. You got to give them something to think about other than getting the hell out, because that's all they'll think
or
about.
Food.
Food's a good one.
That's why running through the forest it's really great, because the soil and the trees and the vegetation and the rocks and everything that's in there, those are things that they'll naturally engage with on their own.
Yeah, we have a
treat them like.
Go ahead,
treat them like most Americans. Then you just keep them entertained and fed, and then they stay where they're supposed to be.
And they stay inside their fence. They stay inside their fence.
Stay in their little cage and do what they're told, even though they don't have to.
Give them an Xbox and a cell phone. They'll stay there all day.
Yep.
We've got a potbelly pig that lives in a pasture with 2 cows next door, and he used to live up here with all those feeder pigs I was growing with. They didn't get along, and he decided he wasn't gonna live in the barn no more one day, and he ran off. And I was just like, hey, good luck, bro. There's bears out here. Probably never gonna see him again. But a couple days later, he showed up in the pen or the pasture with the cows, and he can come and go out of there as he pleases, but he stays over there. But there's also a big thick stand of oak trees over there and stuff. So when the mass drops, he's got plenty to eat, and he's gained weight since he moved in with those 2 cows. Let me see. Matt Yoder here asks, I have 20 chickens and they are not laying eggs anymore unless they're eating them. But what the hell happened? I was getting 15 eggs a day. Now none.
Yeah. So there's a couple different things. Yeah.
I wonder where it's getting that feed from.
Yeah.
So it could be feed. It could be a nutritional deficiency.
Could be.
Of course. That's what we'll call it, a nutritional deficiency. And, it could be calcium or an inferior protein source or whatever, moldy feed or something like that. But also chickens molt 1 or 2 times a year. So if the chickens are losing feathers, then they're molting, and they're just putting that protein into building the new feathers back. And so it's a trade-off. You're going to get a little bit less egg production. Once their feathers are all new and have come in, you'll see the egg production come back up. And then there's a seasonal deficiency, and that's just due to the hours of light that they get. Yep. So the less light, the less eggs. So you tend to get less eggs in the winter. And then there's the whole battle between, do you implement lighting or do you not? And, I'm not going to tell you what to do. Well, you do you.
Yeah. Supplement them with some crushed oyster shell would help.
I know, and it's usually up by Cherokee, North Carolina, where I'm at. It's usually not that humid, but it was extremely humid this summer, and I noticed my egg production dropped because, if I was a hen, I wouldn't want to be in that humid hen house all day long either, So then,
Yeah,
when it's, go ahead, I'm
extreme
sorry.
temperatures. Yeah, I mean, if it's like
Yeah.
100 degrees out, that's you
Yeah,
don't
they
like
didn't.
that, and I don't like that
Gotta
either.
get the
And
window AC hooked up in the coop, man.
yeah,
That's what it
yeah,
is.
you ought
Yeah.
to just put a nice AC unit in your coop.
Yeah,
Sue,
well,
I have a question for you.
I was thinking that Chris talks about in one of his books. I was thinking about just getting some water bottles and putting it in there and facing it. My hen house is movable, so I just face it towards the wind and get
There
a
you
little bit
go.
of breeze in there and cool it
Get
down.
a
in
swamp
there.
cooler going.
Yeah.
I come
Yeah.
home the other day. Amber has bought. She has it's chicken picnic tables. So the little feeders in the center of the table, so it looks like they're all sitting at the picnic table while they eat. That's what we got. We got picnic tables now.
As cute as that is, Sue has you beat because Sue's chickens lay ceramic eggs.
Ceramic eggs. Full of jelly beans?
No, straight up ceramic eggs. They're really cool.
That's awesome.
I think Tractor Supply sells some. I put some in there, and my wife gathered them up and gave them away
By accident.
Oh, it gave them away?
Yeah, the neighbor came back and said, "These eggs aren't done yet. They won't crack."
Oh my god! Oh my god! That's hilarious.
That's what happens when you get a
Extra
farm sitter
hard-boiled.
too.
Yeah, farm sitter. Yeah.
They go collect all your ceramic eggs.
That's I should have told her that. That wasn't fair to her, but anything to mess with the Marine Corps, I just mess with the Marines.
This was. Let me fill in the gap. I was hoping you'd actually tell the story, but when they got the chickens,
no, here we go.
Robbie was just so excited about when are we getting eggs? Oh, and she's checking the eggs, and she's Robbie's really cute with the cows too, and she just loves on them, and so she goes out there and checks, and finally, Mr. Brain Nugget over here goes out and gets some ceramic eggs and puts them in there and goes, check this out. And trick Robbie.
That's so
Sure as
mean.
shit, Robbie goes out and collects them, and she comes back all happy. They laid eggs, but they're really hard.
And they're heavy. They're so heavy.
Double yokers.
That's too funny. So Chantal, Chris Mullen here asks, any thoughts on a hog processing class? Now, I saw pictures of you guys doing one of those, so I know you do that. But I think he's asking if you schedule those and how he could get in on one.
Yeah, so that's my amazing husband in the comment section.
Where is your husband, by the way? Where is he, Chantal?
He's tucked in the bedroom at the house.
Right. Did you say tucked or locked?
Yeah, tucked.
Yeah. Him, the kids, they're all tucked, locked.
They're
whatever. It's all the same, really.
They're not bothering me. Let's put it that way.
Puts the
Right.
lotion on its skin.
I was just gonna go there.
That's so funny.
Hello, Clarice.
So are you considering doing more hog processing classes?
Yeah. We're working with Adam Steele, which he's awesome. He has his own specialty shop in Florida, and we fly him up, and he is like the guru of specialty cuts. He does all kinds of wild game. He does all kinds of like sausages and curing, and he's so good with that stuff. And he comes up and he basically feeds us for the whole like third day of our processing class.
Nice.
But yeah, so we're looking to schedule that for mid to end of January. And that'll be here in North Carolina. We usually have between 10 and 20 spots that we hold open depending on the space that we set it in. And then we offer add-on butcher workshop stations. So you can have your own set of knives and your own table and your own half of a hog. And you can literally learn and do the actual cutting alongside of us and alongside of Adam. And really, like, that's the best way to learn, is to actually do it. Like, you can go and you can watch videos, and you can go and you can go to somebody else's hog processing, and they're most likely not going to let you actually do any of the processing. Skinning a pig is difficult the first time if you've never done it. And so, well, to do it correctly.
Oh no, you're right. If you've never done it,
If
it
you've never
certainly is a
done it,
challenge.
there's
Yes,
a little,
it's-
there's a little,
Like I
feel
said,
to it.
I did 5 in 6 hours one day by myself. So
So
Well, we're
Chantal,
talking about for,
this.
this is a hands-on educational class, which is what I
Yeah.
try to do for all of my stuff. I really feel it's important to let people experience that, because that is really what gets your brain focusing on that, and that's how you learn. So
yeah, it's an interesting thing. Anytime you're with someone who's butchering an animal for the first time. First, it's generally what they say is there's not nearly as much blood as I thought there'd be. Well, no, there's really not when this is done properly.
right.
And they get that intimate connection to where their food comes from.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
fully
Well, and
understand
that's awesome. You guys are offering as a couple too, because
it.
my wife, she's named every animal I bought, so there probably won't be bringing my own hog because unless they're just there to watch, And,
Yeah, it was hard the first time though.
Just there to watch. Bring your pigs to watch a pig butchering.
yeah, she makes a pet out of everything. So I don't know.
That's too funny. All right, we got one more there. Chantal said, Christy says, someone tell me what IDS gardening stands for.
Sure.
I was going to ask that same question. Yes. What is
Yeah.
IDS?
So IDS it stands for in due season. So Bible reference, in due season, for steadfast. You will
planting
reap
according to
what
seasons. Yeah.
you'll reap what you
And I have to be honest, when you first said that, I thought you said IBS gardening, and I was letting that run wild in my head as possibilities for IBS gardening.
Like,
I'm like,
that's very appetizing.
Is this fertilizing we're talking about? Is this what is this?
It's that holistic gardening application. Everything goes into something else.
Well, like I said, when I thought it was IBS gardening, IBS, which is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So Chantal, let folks know what you got coming up soon. Where can they find you? Where do you want them to find you? And if they can order some of the amazing looking stuff you guys are producing, how they can do that.
Yeah, sure. So I do have some social media. We're on Facebook and TikTok the most.
Very little social media. You have a YouTube channel that's a big.
I know. Well,
fix that.
Listen. We're having a hard time deciding.
Listen, Linda.
Don't be too hard on me.
Oh no.
Listen, Karen. Okay. We're gonna start to do some videos, but I want to be really intentional about the type of videos that we put on YouTube. So if you could help us, we need to, obviously the first goal is put a video on there, but then we're going to be having a push to get to that 1,000 so that we can kind of open up some of the possibilities for really utilizing that and monetizing that.
Yep.
We'll be kind of having a mashup of blacksmithing and funny farm humor and education, of course, on there, which you can kind of see some of my stuff on TikTok. I'm a big nerd. I don't take myself super serious. So, don't expect super serious content from me.
That's my favorite kind. Anybody can laugh at themselves. I'm all about that because I'm always laughing at myself.
Yeah, you can follow me on Facebook. I have my personal content creator page under Chantal Mullen. And of course, for everything business related, the Farm and Forge. And we do have an Instagram, but I'll be honest for you, it's not my favorite thing. I'm going to try to get better at it. I'm going to try to get it automated.
Yeah, there you go.
So we do have a website, which is a square website at this point. We have some things for sale on there if you want to support us. We'll be putting our heirloom seeds on there. Some of Christopher's ironwork will be on there if it's not already on there. And then, of course, our classes we put on there. So any educational classes or experiences that we offer. And then, for mountain readiness, you can do those pre-orders. They are a pre-assembled, ready to cook kit. But we'll also have some stuff at our vendor table as well for day of.
I've got a project I want to talk to Chris about at Mountain Readiness. This is something that I've been trying to have built for a number of years, and I can't seem to get the right blacksmith that understands what I want to build it for me. And this would be a fabulous idea. He would be able to sell this. He'd be able to sell so many of these to the bushcraft community. I promise you. So anyway, I want to say thanks to everybody being here. Chantal in particular, thanks for being on the show. Don't
Thanks
forget,
for having
guys. Oh, always. You know, as you guys get moving, we'll do this some more. You know, we're going to see you in a couple weeks anyway, up in Harmony. All the links for Chantal are in the show notes down there. For you guys listening, remember we release these recorded live every Wednesday at 8 p.m. We do a Patreon only on Tuesdays at 8 p.m. and a Facebook at 8 p.m. every other week. So we have one tomorrow. Next week we won't. Just a new drill on how we're doing those things. We're just doing too much. But patrons, you guys can jump over to Rumble. We'll be over there in just a minute. You guys know the drill. Be good at it. We'll catch you next time.
If you think solar panels are going to save this country, the government's blown sunshine up your butt. Haven't had enough yet? Stick around for the after show. Bolder, grittier, angrier. On the Rocks with Angry American and the gang is coming up next.